Next up, I'd like to welcome John Cotton to the stage. John Cotton is a filmmaker turned developer, father of 2 girls, and co-organizer of ChaDev. He is passionate about mentoring, functional programming, and pizza. His greatest achievements are running a 10-minute mile, earning a black belt, and winning an Emmy Award.
They said it couldn't be done, the 10-minute mile. Yeah. All right. Well, hey. Raise your hand if you've ever, felt like you're a total fake in what you do. And then maybe keep your hand up or raise it again if that's kept you from being good at your job for 20 minutes or 10 minutes or a day. So I decided to talk about this kind of seemingly obvious, very well-known psychological dilemma called imposter syndrome. And I discovered a couple of really interesting things while researching it. And the first is that there's 2 spellings for the word imposter in the English language, and both of them are valid. So the first thing you have to do to kind of overcome imposter syndrome is figure out if you are an ER imposter or an OR imposter. So what exactly is it, and where does it come from? And kind of digging in a little bit, we started to see this in the 70s. Specifically, psychologists were discovering women who were in the workplace, and they just, while they had qualifications and degrees and every right to be where they were experiencing this phenomenon. So we start to see the language of imposter phenomenon appearing in the 70s. I was not around in the 70s, and neither was AWS or a lot of the fun stuff we get to work with here. And so the kind of working definition is this suffering from a feeling of fraudulence or inadequacy. And this feeling persists in light of evidence of the contrary, right? You get hired for your job, but you still feel as though, maybe someone made a mistake somewhere. And it's a feeling, it's not actually tied to any real evidence. And these feelings and this sense of inadequacy can be paralyzing, and it can really show up at any time, but often it's triggered by the pressure to perform or to achieve. And so some of these triggers might be, applying for a job or starting a new job, or maybe a unit test fails or a build fails. You're learning a new skill or interviewing. And then once these are triggered, they can kind of take the form of these paralyzing thoughts. Some that come to mind and that, that I've felt or have heard other people express, right, is that this, failure is not possible. We can't allow failure to happen. Or maybe I'm not as smart as they think I am. Or I feel like a fake. Or maybe I don't actually deserve this job. And maybe I don't belong on this team. And these are just examples of our critical internal voice taking volume over our optimistic voice. And so how do we overcome this now that we have some working definitions, and what does it mean to overcome it? Well, we can maybe overcome it individually, but does that really help our teams, and does that help people who are coming into this industry? We need to start embracing it and talking about it a little bit more regularly. So I'll go ahead and change the title of this lightning talk, and maybe talk about why it's important. I think it's important because these triggers kind of disproportionately affect people who are breaking into this industry. Maybe people who are wanting to make a career change like I did a few years ago, or maybe they're going to apply for a job they feel like they're not qualified for. And so when we talk about it and when we normalize this, we can create opportunities to help our peers overcome it. Because programming is not magic, and neither is DevOps. Although it kind of is a little bit. And failure is just a part of iteration, right? It's just it's a step in the right direction. And for the managers here, it's a form of blocking. And so, we have people on our teams who are slowing down because they feel inadequate. And so we need to quiet the critical voice, which oftentimes is internal, And we need to be the optimistic voice to our teams and to our peers and to those who we mentor. And we need to embrace a culture of understanding. And my wife challenged me to think of, what does this culture of understanding look like? And I've kind of been reflecting on that for a while. But I think what I've come to is that it's a culture where we assume less, where we don't necessarily laugh when somebody doesn't know the difference between Java and JavaScript. You can laugh if you want, but and we need to foster a growth mindset and create a culture of belonging. And it's going to require vulnerability. That's JavaScript. And vulnerability is a little bit scary, right? But if we can move towards a team where the culture is accepting and open and just provokes a sense of belonging, I think that's going to be worth the scary. And I'll do a shameless plug. We have a developer pint night Thursday night at Odd Story if you want to join, 6 o'clock. And thank you.